All right. Hello and welcome everyone to our Office Hours webinar today. We're so glad that you could be joining us. My name is Stephanie. I'm a member of our Customer Delight team, and I will be one of your hosts for today's webinar. Now, our goal for the Office Hour webinar series, maybe if you're new here and joining us for the first time, they are designed to show off a specific feature or two, and then we will open the floor and answer any questions that you might have about those features. Now, today's topic is a highly requested one, and it's actually a repeat of one that we did last year with a couple of updates. We are going to be doing a deep dive into the personal trainer within BrainHQ. So Henry and I are going to walk you through the different features of the personal trainer. And then after that, we will be taking questions from the audience. So if at any point you'd like to ask a question about the personal trainer, you can click on the Q&A button on the Zoom control panel, and a little window should pop up where you can type in your questions. Now, there are a lot more of you than there are me and Henry answering questions today. So we aren't going to be able to answer every question, but if you do have a really dire question that you need answered, please email us support@brainhq.com. Either myself or one of our other customer delight specialists are more than happy to get back to you and answer those questions. We also have a support site with answers to common questions about the personal trainer. You can find that at support.brainhq.com. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that today's webinar is being recorded and it will get posted to our YouTube channel probably sometime next week. If you'd like to be notified when that recording goes live, you can go to youtube.com/brainhq and subscribe there in order to receive an email notification. All right, so little quick bitty about me. Hi, I'm Stephanie once again. Before working at Posit Science, I was a science communicator and docent at a science museum here in San Francisco. I started working for Posit Science in 2014, and throughout my 9 years here, I've been doing a lot of different things, and I'm wearing a lot more hats now. But I'm still finding time to answer questions from users like you all pretty much every day. Now, my co-host today is also a returning guest and host to the webinar series, Henry. Henry, you want to say hi?
Hi, folks. Nice to have everyone here today.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't met Henry, he is a neuroscientist who earned his PhD at the University of California, San Francisco. That's where he studied neuroplasticity with our co-founder, Dr. Michael Merzenich. So he and I are going to be tag teaming the demo, and then he and I are also going to be tag teaming the questions. So be sure to get those questions in whenever they come up. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Let me switch over to my demonstration window. So I guess the first thing that we should probably establish is, what is the personal trainer within BrainHQ? Sometimes we get phone calls or emails or chats from folks saying, hi, I'd like to talk to the personal trainer. I want to know why they're scheduling these exercises for me. We can't do that because the personal trainer isn't actually a person. The personal trainer is a feature within the BrainHQ program that is designed to pick out exercises for you each time you sit down to do your training. So ideally, what it's supposed to do is take the guesswork out of training for you. You don't have to go in and handpick your exercises and levels. The trainer is designed to do that. Now, whenever you log into BrainHQ, the personal trainer is going to look at your entire brain training history. So that's going to include your performance on every level of every exercise across every platform. And then it's going to select exercises and levels from those exercises that it thinks that are going to be the optimal ones for you to work on. Now, each time you train, the personal trainer is either going to pick new levels for you to train on, or it might ask you to repeat a level that it thinks that it wants you to improve on. So moving on, the next question that we often get is, how do I navigate to the personal trainer? And thankfully, that is easy for both mobile and web here. Look for the big button under where it says use personal trainer, and it'll be visually very similar in the app as well. So we click on that, and we are taken to our schedule for the day. So the schedule kind of reads a little backwards if you think about it. So it kind of reads from right to left. So the first exercise here in the big start button is going to be the first exercise that we are scheduled to do. And then after that, it'll be that one, and then that one, and then that one, going from right to left. Now, I can also see that the schedule that the personal trainer has created for me today has a lot of brain speed and attention exercises. And I know this because all of our exercises within BrainHQ are color coded. So all of our attention exercises are green and all of our brain speed exercises are blue. This is an account that is a pretty fresh account. I created it not too long ago, so I'm getting a lot of these blue and green exercises, and that's done for a couple of reasons. Now, Henry, I was wondering if you could maybe talk about why the personal trainer queues up attention and brain speed exercises at first.
Yeah, it's because the speed and attention exercises are just so foundational to improving brain health. If your attention is not good, so you're not noticing things, or your speed is not good, so things are going by a little bit too fast for you, that just limits the information that your brain can take in. And so we want to work on speed and attention first to get everyone's brains tuned up to taking in information. And that lets us work on more advanced skills like memory and executive function and people skills after we get that going.
Yeah, so that is definitely the primary reason why we queue up these attention and brain speed exercises first. But also we have generally sort of crafted these exercises to be easier for new users to understand. Maybe for people that aren't computer savvy, these are generally pretty user-friendly exercises that you can start off your training with. All right, so let's talk about the flow of what a trainer session within the personal trainer looks like. So we can see all of these exercises that the personal trainer has picked out for me. And if you look closely, because my window is wide enough, there are going to be 6 exercises here, and then they start repeating. So we have sound sweeps, double decision, a couple more, and then it comes back full circle to sound sweeps and double decision. So the first exercise over here, we said sound sweeps, is actually going to be a new exercise for me. And I can tell that this is a new exercise because it has that little notation under it saying 5th level. So if you see a numeric notation, that tells you that it's a new level for you. Under certain levels, the personal trainer may also have a repeated level scheduled for you. So a repeated level is a level where you've trained with it previously, but you didn't quite hit your performance target. And so the personal trainer wants you to come back and retrain with that level. Now, the goal when you're training with a level in the personal trainer is you want to cumulatively earn 10 stars. When you first train with a level, you're going to earn anywhere between 1 and 5 stars. And then you're going to immediately be asked to replay that level until you either earn 10 stars or you end up replaying it 5 times. Now, each time you replay a level, that's going to count towards your weekly goal. So if you overshoot your training session, that is a-okay. Now, one thing that I do want to show is what happens, what gets shown on the personal trainer screen each time you complete a level and earn those 10 stars. So let me actually switch back over to my presentation for this very briefly. So this is a session that I did earlier this week. So we can see that I trained with 3 levels and I passed this level of sound sweeps. I've completed 3 of the 8 levels that the personal trainer wants me to complete for this session, and I've earned 13 stars. We also see around the outside, there's sort of like a little loading bar. The circle starts to fill in, and that's going to sort of be a visual indication of those 3 out of 8 levels that I've completed. So I continued training, went on to my next exercise, and then I got a level of, it looks like visual sweeps here, and I knocked it out of the park. I got 5 stars both times I replayed it, so I'm up to 5 out of 8 levels completed. And then I went on to my last exercise, and it took me 3 tries to get more than 10 stars, and that is a-okay, overshot it, but that's also totally fine. And we can see that it was a repeated level. So that was a level that I had previously struggled with that I finally went and passed. So once you have completed all 8 levels in a session that the personal trainer has picked out for you, you're going to get a session complete screen similar to this one. So the session complete screen is going to tell you how many levels you've passed, how many moments you've earned. Moments can be achievements like scoring in a top percentile of a particular exercise, for example. It's going to show you how many stars you've earned and how many levels towards your weekly goal you've completed so far. Now, the next day I went and did the same thing again, and I got up to 18 levels out of my 24 weekly level goal. We can see that I earned a couple more moments, earned a couple more stars. And then the third session of my week, I overshot it, and that is fantastic as well. So we can see here that I completed 26 levels during that week out of my weekly goal of 24. So this is all information that the personal trainer will show you each time you complete a session within the personal trainer. All right, so what I next want to talk about is how the personal trainer goes about picking out levels and exercises. Because one thing that we often get questions about is how come, I keep getting the same kinds of exercises over and over and over again in my trainer schedule. So if you're asking that, I see you, I hear you. Now there are 29 different exercises in BrainHQ, and each of those exercises is broken down into smaller configurations that we call levels. Now, whenever you complete a level within the personal trainer, the trainer is then going to decide if it should return it to you in the future or if it should instead retire that level. So a level is going to get returned to you if you didn't reach your performance goal. So if you didn't quite score high enough. Now, if you see a bunch of levels that are listed as repeated levels, that's okay. That means that the exercises that it's picking for you are challenging and you're actually probably training at a good level for your brain. Now, the personal trainer will also retire a level if you've reached or exceeded your performance target for that level. So the personal trainer says, that was too easy for you. We want to give you something challenging. It'll bump you up to the next level. Now, an exercise also can be retired when you have retired a certain number of levels within that exercise. So for example, sound sweeps here, once I complete 10 levels of sound sweeps, the personal trainer is going to say, hey, you've done 10 levels of sound sweeps. We're going to go ahead and retire that and then swap sound sweeps out for a different exercise now. So by default, this is going to happen after you retire 10 levels in an exercise. So big picture here, just kind of encapsulating everything that I just said. Each session, you're going to have 6 exercises in your active set. The personal trainer is going to pick out a level from each exercise. It might be repeated. It might be a new level. And then after you retire 10 levels within that exercise, the personal trainer will retire that exercise and then swap it out for a different one. Now, some of these settings can be tweaked, and this is actually a section that I want to toss over to Henry, so that way he can talk about how and why you would maybe want to change up some of these settings.
Yeah, and that helps us talk a little bit more about how you make progress through the personal trainer, which is a question that people frequently have. So let's go take a look at those settings, Stephanie. Why don't we navigate over to your profile? Perfect. And once your profile loads, we'll scroll down a little bit, and towards the bottom, you'll find that personal trainer settings section. Fantastic. And there's 2 things that can be set here. Now, let me just say right off the bat, the defaults for this are perfectly good. If you never need to switch this, that is perfectly fine. But if you do want to, pop the hood up and tweak the settings a little bit, here's what both of these things do. The top setting there is called your training challenge. And that basically sets how many stars do you have to earn at your best when you finish a level for BrainHQ to say, hey, you're pretty good at that level. You don't need to see it anymore. Stephanie called that retiring a level a moment ago. So you can set this at 4 different thresholds. If you set it at easy, click on easy there for a moment, what that means is that as long as on one time when you do a level, you earn 2 stars or more, BrainHQ will say, hey, that's good enough. You don't need to see that level anymore. Next time you train, I'll bring you a new level in that exercise. If you click medium, that threshold will be 3 stars, and hard, that threshold will be 4 stars. And if you click expert, you are going to have to get 5 stars on a level for have it to go away. Now that's pretty challenging, but we do have some users out there who like to do it. So I think the default for this is typically medium, about 3 stars. And if you're feeling like you are seeing too many repeated levels, then you could choose to lower this, and you will not repeat levels so often because BrainHQ will retire those levels based on your performance. So that's one thing you can change if you'd like. The next thing's a little bit more complicated, but I'll just say a word or two about it. Stephanie also talked about, hey, there are usually 6 exercises that are shown in the personal trainer. So how does BrainHQ and how does the personal trainer decide to finally get rid of one of those exercises and introduce a new one? Well, as Stephanie said, BrainHQ will get rid of an exercise when you have met that training challenge level at least, for example, 10 different levels. So let's say you do a first level of Hawkeye and your training challenge is set to 3 stars and you get 3 stars. So you retire that first level. You'll get a second level of Hawkeye. You get 3 stars again. It'll retire that level. You'll eventually work your way through 10 levels of Hawkeye. And at that point, BrainHQ says, hey, that's enough Hawkeye for now. Let's get rid of Hawkeye and introduce a new exercise. Now, by default, that happens once you hit that threshold at 10 levels. But if you'd like to stay in an exercise for longer, you can increase that depth setting. And the more you move that to the right, the more levels you will be asked to finish in an exercise before that exercise goes away. On the other hand, if you feel like, hey, I'm staying in these exercises a little bit too long, I'd like to work my way to try the different exercises a little bit more quickly, you can change that setting more to a breadth setting. And in that case, you'll move on to a new exercise after you've hit the threshold for, let's say, 4 levels or 6 levels. Again, the default is 10, and that's a perfectly good default. But if you'd like to change it, that's what that all means. Now, why are we doing all this? Well, from a science perspective, of course, BrainHQ training is about practice, and we want to make sure your brain gets the right amount of practice before it goes on to the next thing. That's why we bring a level back to you. If your training challenge for a level is 4 stars and you've never gotten 4 stars, well, BrainHQ wants to bring that level back to you in order to give you more practice on it. If your training depth is set to 10 levels, well, BrainHQ is going to keep giving you levels within an exercise until you complete 10 of them because it wants your brain to keep working on that exercise. So it's all about the automatic ways that the personal trainer is giving you the right levels to give you the right amount of practice to improve that brain function. Thanks, Stephanie. I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do end up making any settings changes to your personal trainer, be sure to click that save button that appears below the training depth meter. Otherwise, it will go back to whatever your previous settings were. Now, if we scroll back up a little bit, we also have this section up here called the focus listed under personal trainer settings. So let's go ahead and click on that, and I can talk a little bit about focuses now. So there are 3 kinds of focuses within BrainHQ. There is the standard focus, a specialized focus, and a custom focus. So standard focuses are the default settings that the personal trainer has. So that will have all 29 exercises that will enable, the personal trainer to pull from any of our 29 exercises. And the optimized schedule or the optimized schedule of Daily Spark is going to be the same as your optimized schedule for you, except it's going to include our Daily Spark exercise at the beginning of your training session. Now, specialized focuses are groupings of exercises that our team of scientists have put together to help train a specific skill. So if we were to click on one of these as an example, let's do focus on auditory processing. We're going to get some information about the exercises that are included. We're going to get some information about why we would want to work on auditory processing. And if that focus sounds good, we can go ahead and click up here to load that focus into the personal trainer. And so we can see my trainer schedule has changed, and it's now including a bunch of auditory processing exercises instead. Now, when I want to switch back to my regular default focus, I can just click up there in the top left corner and then go back to my optimized schedule, and it'll load it right up for me right where I had left it. Now, the last thing that I briefly want to touch on is a custom focus option. So if there are specific exercises that you like training with or specific exercises that you maybe want to omit from the personal trainer, creating a custom focus would be the way to do that. So if you click on create a new focus, you're going to see all of our exercises listed over here. If you want to enable an exercise to be included in that focus, you click on it, and the order in which you click on them will determine how soon the personal trainer will go ahead and schedule those exercises for you. So let's say I want to work with these 10 exercises. And if I want to reorder them a little bit, I can. So say I want to work on face-to-face and face backs first, I can click the arrow up at the top to move them to the top of the list. And then I can also rename it so you can have multiple focuses saved to your account and you can switch between them. Now, if that all looks good, you can go ahead and go up here to load that new custom focus into the personal trainer. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up. I think for the demo portion, I want to make sure that we have enough time for all of the questions and stuff that are coming in. So let's go ahead and switch over to Q&A mode here.
Fantastic. Let's see what we're getting here as far as questions are concerned, Stephanie. I see one or two people who are asking a question about, hey, I often, I open up the personal trainer and, BrainHQ is supposed to be picking out exercises for me, but I'm seeing, the same exercise for almost my whole session, or sometimes I'm just seeing one or two exercises. Why aren't I getting more variety? And I can actually feel that one, Stephanie, although you can jump in as well. We are definitely seeing that for certain people who have completed a lot of training, that once the personal trainer has offered every level 1 or 2 or 3 times, it doesn't get quite as much variety as it's supposed to after that. So if you are seeing the same exercise or just 1 or 2 exercises throughout your personal trainer, and you're the kind of person who's done a lot of training already, maybe you've done a couple thousand repeats. Stephanie, can you show us how to check your progress bar and just show how many levels a person has done?
Yeah, of course. So if you come up here to this tab and click on progress, you're going to see how many days you've trained, how many stars you've earned, and how many levels you've completed, and your percentile up there.
That's exactly right. So if you're seeing the same exercise and you have done, 1,000 or 2,000 levels, and there's a lot of users who've done quite a lot of brain training, and you might be one of them, that's probably because it has come to become clear that the personal trainer doesn't pick exercises very well once you've done them all several times. And I have 2 suggestions for you. First of all, we're aware of the problem. We actually have some scientists and some engineers working on tweaking the personal trainer so it does a better job picking levels for people who've done a lot of training. So that's the first step, is it's become clear to us, what's going on, and then we have a fix in place that we're working on. We'll let everyone know when that goes out. But in the meantime, what I would suggest you do is actually pick out individual exercises. Now, today we're talking about the personal trainer, but Stephanie, ever so briefly, let's show people how to pick out individual exercises. So if you're not getting enough variety in the personal trainer, you know what to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead and click the Explore All Exercises button. And what I'm going to do, Stephanie, is I'm going to talk a little bit about how the medals work here to help people pick exercises in the a la carte. And again, I'm going to be brief because I think we have an office hours coming up that talks about this in a lot more detail. But again, if your personal trainer kind of looks stuck, you can come to this, and at the top, it shows you each cognitive domain, brain speed, attention, memory, and people skills. And those little colorful kind of circles tell you which medals you earn. So you can see that Stephanie on this test account has earned a couple gold medals in brain speed, but there's a lot of black space there, meaning she could earn more medals. So you can look across all your suites here. You can find areas that you've done not quite as much training as others, and that will help you go ahead and pick those exercises. And you can go ahead and just continue your BrainHQ training by picking exercises where you haven't finished them all yet. And that's a great way to do BrainHQ. And meanwhile, our engineers are working hard at making the personal trainer work better for you folks who've done so much brain training, because we really want it to work great for you as well. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, that was a great question and a very thorough and hopeful answer. The personal trainer hasn't undergone that many changes since we ran this webinar last year, but hopefully this time next year, hopefully this time next year, we can update you with those new feature changes. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some of these other questions here. So Terry had asked where the trainer settings are in the BrainHQ app. So that is a wonderful question. So the BrainHQ app is kind of limited when it comes to the personal trainer settings. So what we recommend doing is if you are on a mobile device, you can still go to brainhq.com and log into your account. And then from there, you can navigate to your profile and adjust those trainer settings like we had shown. And what'll happen is the next time you log into the BrainHQ app, those settings should be synced up. And you should be able to continue your training with those new settings instated there. So wonderful question. Same also applies for Android users out there. You have to go to the mobile version of the website.
Wonderful.
All right.
Let's look at a few other good ones here because we are getting quite a few of them.
Oh, I believe somebody had asked when you said go up here to the corner, and I think they were talking about focuses. So I'll go ahead and show that again. So the focuses you can get to from your profile page, or if you come up here to this top left corner where it says the name of the focus, you can click on that to get the focus selection screen.
That's great. And I see a question here that is related to that, which is, hey, can I change the focus so I can get training to address my specific deficit? And that is exactly what the focuses are for. So, the idea here is that you can look at these focuses, and particularly the specialized focuses. And if there's something you really want to work on, for example, you think, hey, the main thing is I feel like I want my brain to just work faster. Well, you can choose the focus on brain speed, and you can work very specifically on the speed exercises. Or if you feel like, hey, the main thing I'm noticing is, when I'm driving, I want to make sure that I'm, fast and accurate behind the wheel, and I want to do the exercises that have really been shown to be related to driving safety. Well, you can pick the focus on driving. Similarly, maybe you're having some problems with hearing, and you want to improve your ability to sort of hear conversations in noisy places or keep up with people who are speaking quickly. You can pick that focus on auditory processing focus right there, and that will give you auditory exercises. So that's exactly the right goal of these. And if you have more specific needs, give us a call or drop us an email, and we can help you pick out a focus that's going to be right for you. But great question. That's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, and actually, while we are here on the focus page, Jeannie had asked about going over how to eliminate an exercise from the personal trainer lineup. So that would once again be part of the custom focus option. So I'll go ahead and go to the one that we just created. So let's go ahead and turn all of the exercises on. Henry, what is an exercise that you would not like to see in the personal trainer?
What's an exercise that I would not like to see in the personal trainer? Well, one exercise that I certainly struggle with, I probably should do it more, but let's say I struggle with is card shark, actually. I find it really challenging to keep all those cards in my memory as they're flipping by. So let's say I wanted to get rid of it. Stephanie, what would I do?
Yeah, so what you would do is create a custom focus, and then where card shark is highlighted, you can go ahead and click the little X next to it. That'll gray it out, and then you can save your focus by hitting this button up here. And then in the future, when the personal trainer creates your schedule, it is going to exclude card shark from the exercises it can program for you. So that would be how you can get around, you can sort of avoid specific exercises from coming up in your personal trainer.
And that's a great long-term solution. But hey, let's say I'm just getting card shark today, and fine, maybe I'll tackle it tomorrow, but I just don't feel like it today. Can I skip an exercise in the personal trainer today?
Absolutely. So I had mentioned earlier that each of these icons represent a level that the personal trainer has picked out for you. And, I mentioned that the start button is over here on the right side of the page, but you can actually do these in any order you want. So if I go, I don't want to start with true north today. I want to go back to sound sweeps. I can click on sound sweeps and it'll load up sound sweeps for me instead.
Perfect. Yeah, and it's fine to skip an exercise for a day. It's fine to skip it for several days. We all have things that we're more in the mood for and less in the mood for. And it's nice to just kind of keep going with your brain training overall.
Yeah. Now we would also probably say, it's okay to skip an exercise or exclude an exercise for a while, but every now and then it's also probably good to check in and do that exercise just to see, if your ability to train with that exercise has improved after training with some of the other exercises in BrainHQ. That's something that a lot of users will find is, they'll have trouble with understanding the directions in true north, for example, but then they'll go back and play or train with auditory processing exercises. And then they go back to true north after a while and say, oh, I can understand the instructions better now. So we would always encourage you to come back and try out exercises if it's been a while, if you haven't trained with them.
Yep. And, Stephanie, just to wrap that topic up, I do see one or two people asking here about, that kind of permanent delete mechanism that you showed on the custom focus. And I think mainly what I'd say about that is, hey, if you don't like the exercise, exactly like Stephanie's saying, skip it for a few days. If you need any help getting rid of it, you can always email Stephanie and her wonderful customer delight team. We're happy to set up a custom focus for you in any way that you kind of outline for us. So if you want to follow the instructions we gave today, that's great. If you feel like, hey, I need a little help with that, just email us at support@brainhq.com and we will help you pull that exercise out of your schedule.
Yeah. All right, so we have a couple of questions about how the personal trainer determines how many levels per session you should be completing. So this is a wonderful question. Here, let me see. Oh, I've already met my weekly goal. So when you start training, yeah. When you start training with BrainHQ, the personal trainer is assuming that you are going to be doing roughly 1 hour of training per week. And it wants to break that down into 3 different sessions. Now, it's going to go ahead and estimate the time here, but the 1 hour per week roughly equates to 24 levels completed within BrainHQ. So it takes those 24 levels, divides them across 3 days a week, and that's how I was getting that, that 3 out of 8 or 5 out of 8. So 8 levels was how long my session needed to be. Now, if you want to change that, you can go to your profile page, or you can click on goals right here from this little drop-down menu. And you can click on change goal, and you can increase your weekly time. So you want to train for 90 minutes a week. You want your trainer sessions to be roughly half an hour long. Then that's going to up it to 36 levels per week is going to be your weekly goal. So if we go ahead and load that in, that's going to be my challenge for the week, but it wants me to complete another 5 levels before Sunday. And I've completed 31 out of now 36 levels that I've set up for myself. So the inverse is also something that I want to show to everybody, especially new users who are maybe like, ooh, an hour a week is kind of daunting. You can decrease it. You can also decrease it. If you can only do half an hour of training a week, that's better than none. Go ahead and load that up. And the personal trainer is going to give you 4 levels instead of 8 levels to train with each session.
Exactly right. And I see a couple questions in here that are kind of related to that, so I'll mention them. So, you very kindly shown people how to increase or decrease their number of levels goals, their number of levels per week. And it's true. Right now, the trainer just kind of assumes that you're going to train 3 times a week. So whatever your level goal for the week is, let's say it's 12, like Stephanie is showing right now, it assumes that you're going to train 3 times a week. And so each time you start a trainer session, it's going to ask you to complete, in this case, 4 levels. But hey, that's totally up to you. As long as you complete those levels in a week, then you've hit your goal. So if you train 4 times in a week, fantastic. If you want to train 4 days in a row, also fantastic. If you want to train twice and just do a little bit more training each time, that's all good. So it's just a matter of the personal trainer making that assumption that you're going to train 3 times a week. But how many times you train per week is up to you. What we really want you to do is, if you go back to your dashboard there, Stephanie, we really want to just make sure that each week you are hitting your weekly goal complete, exactly as Stephanie has outlaid there. And if the personal trainer helps you get it there, that's great. If you want to do a few more extra levels, picking individual exercises, that's great. You want to double up on your personal trainer sessions and get a few more levels in, that's also all good.
Yeah, that relates to a couple of questions that I've seen about the early exit option while training with a personal trainer. Sometimes if you are, trying to meet that weekly goal and aren't training 3 times a week, there's a good chance that you are going to complete a session and then like end up having to do half a session after that. If you don't complete the session, that is a-okay. The personal trainer will go ahead and pick up that session where you had previously left off the next time you go back to the personal trainer. So you never have to worry about, stopping in the middle of a session and then losing that progress necessarily.
Mhm. Fantastic. All right, the questions are really flying now, Stephanie. So I'm going to read
I
a few of
know.
them. Pick some good useful ones to answer in that sense.
Oh, Kate has an interesting question.
Yeah.
So, she said the personal trainer, like you said, emphasizes speed and attention first, but is there an order of presentation across the different areas? So like as I'm understanding that, it's like when an attention exercise gets retired, what kind of exercise then goes in and replaces it?
Yeah, there is actually an order. And I believe actually, Stephanie, if you go to the custom focus again for just a moment. And let's say you try to create a new custom focus. Let's check and see if I am right here. Nope, I am not right. Sorry, for a period of time, it listed the exercises in the default order, but I think it's not showing them in the default order here because we've already built at least one custom focus. So
Yeah.
just to show, unfortunately. But you're right.
So
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was going to say, my understanding is that the exercises that get swapped in also kind of go according to suite order. So when you're looking at like the explore all exercises and you see attention exercises, brain speed, memory, people skills, intelligence, and navigation, my understanding is that like once you're done with an attention exercise, it might swap in another attention exercise, but after you're done with all the attention exercises, those are eventually going to get swapped for like the memory exercises, and then brain speed should get swapped for more memory exercises or people skills exercises. So it kind of makes its way down this list because of the various complexity of these different categories, as I understand it.
Yep, that's exactly right. It does try to make the most complicated exercises appear very last as you work your way through it. So wonderful question. Let's see. So many good questions coming in. Let's see. What would be the most useful one to answer here? I do see two people just asking in general around what's the best time of the day to train, which is a great question. And we have a wonderful and simple answer for this. The best time to train is the time that you find most convenient for your schedule and where you find your brain is sharpest and ready to learn. There's no reason to think that the morning is better for everyone or the afternoon is better for everyone or anything like that. Everyone's brain is unique and different. And what we want to make sure is that you have time in your calendar. So you do BrainHQ, and we want to make sure it's a time that you're feeling, sharp and up to practicing. So for some people, that's the morning after they have breakfast. Some people like to do it in the late afternoon before dinner. But pick that time that suits your calendar and when your brain is feeling good.
Yeah, simple, straightforward answer. Do it where it makes sense to you to do it. All right, so I have a question from Chuck, but it looks like a couple of other people have had similar questions and wrote in as well. They say, I have a cognitive deficit. There's one particular area where I'm really struggling. What's the best approach? What I'm currently doing is a custom focus with every other exercise, and then I do that deficit area separately. Is that a good way to go about training? So yeah, that is a great question. And that is definitely one way that you could go about training. Henry, do you have any other suggestions for that?
Yeah, I think, I think, Stephanie, I think what I'm hearing from that is, hey, this person has something that they sort of aware they want to work on or need to work on because they have a challenge in that area. But hey, maybe they don't want to work on that every single day because it's challenging. And so they're kind of going back and forth a bit between, hey, I want to work on exercises that I am very successful at and feel good and I'm making some progress at. And then I'm going to kind of, mix that in with on certain days coming back to the things that I I know I really need to work on. I actually think that's a great way to train, and I'm impressed that you have put that together, and congratulations for it. And it's an interesting question to get because just a few weeks ago when Mike Mersnick, our founder and chief science officer, and I were in general talking about directions the personal trainer can go, one of the things that he would like to see at some point in the future is for the personal trainer to be a little bit more personal, and itself be aware of, hey, giving you some things that you are good at, that you're going to succeed and grow at, and mixing them with some things that you need to work on a bit more. So you're right on the same wavelength as our chief science officer and founder, and that's an excellent way to doing it as you laid out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so whether that looks like, using a custom focus and excluding that one exercise, and then like going to the explore all exercises to pick out that specific exercise and do it separately, or going back to the default focus and then letting that come up in your schedule as it does. I think either way is a great way to go about it. It's really great initiative and a really great idea that you took on your part, Chuck, for that. All right, let's see here.
Let's see. How about I do see a couple of people asking about brain fog, and I think this is a good topic to talk about in the context of the personal trainer and the focuses. So, as many of you know, but for some of you who are maybe new to this, people often talk about brain fog as a result of a variety of conditions. Usually what people are meaning is that, hey, in general, they feel like they have some cognitive slowing. They're not as sharp as they used to be. And it can be due to, let's say you've had a concussion. It can be due, maybe often people are talking about it now because it can become a symptom of long COVID after you've had a COVID infection. Often brain fog comes up in discussions of cancer treatment and chemo brain. And so it's a broad symptom, and scientists are still trying to figure out exactly what the neurological roots of it are. But, you might have the question, hey, how should I configure my personal trainer if I really want to tackle this? And actually, the good news here is that the default personal trainer focus, can we go back to that default one? You're on your My Focus right now, but the default personal trainer focus that BrainHQ comes out of the box with, so to speak, that optimized schedule for you, this is going to work your way through all of the exercises over time. So you're going to work through them in a sensible order, as we just talked about, starting off with speed and attention, and then moving on to more complicated areas. And that's a pretty good recommendation for someone who is feeling a broad sense of, hey, my brain's just not as sharp as it used to be, and I want to work out these various different areas of function in it. So when people come to me and ask me how they should set up the personal trainer for these broad things like brain fog, I almost always recommend just use the default schedule, use the optimized schedule for you. BrainHQ is going to pick out that exercises, and you're going to work your way through them. And hey, if you feel like you were just stuck on levels and not getting through them, then hey, as we talked about before, you can lower your training challenge from medium to easy, or you can just send us a note at support@brainhq.com, and we'll take care of that for you if you feel like the exercises are pushing you a little bit too far with your brain fog. But the default focus is a great choice. So great question. Thanks. Let's see.
All right.
Here's Faith asking a wonderful question. Hey, if I have to be absent from BrainHQ for a month or so, will the personal trainer start at the beginning again? That's a great question. And hey, the summer's coming up, and maybe a lot of you are thinking about, hey, I might be out for a few weeks. What's going to happen? So what's going to happen, Stephanie, if you step away from a month because you're enjoying some time with your family, or maybe you have an exciting trip? What's going to happen to the personal trainer when you come back?
Personal trainer is going to pick up right where you had last left it. So whether that's the middle of a session or if it is a new session entirely, it's going to take a look at that previous training data and then just pick you up right where you had left off.
Yep, that is exactly right. Now, the flip of that is, if you've been gone for a while and you come back and you're like, I just want to kind of take a fresh start at this, you can email us again at support@brainhq.com, and Stephanie and her team, they can actually just reset all of your progress. Now, that's a little bit of a drastic step because it's going to show that you have 0 stars and 0 levels, but it will start BrainHQ all over for you. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Your brain still has the benefits of the historic training that you did. But if you've been away for a while and you just want to kind of take it from the top, you can email us and we can set that up for you. Let's see. I'm looking at a few of these questions that are a little bit more detailed, Stephanie.
Ooh,
Let's see.
I've got an interesting question from an anonymous user here who says, to achieve 10 stars for an exercise, I tend to try and achieve 4 to 5 stars in the first 2 rounds, but then I slack off as I get closer to 10 stars. Is this slowing my progress or is it slowing down my progress, basically? And it's funny because like that is a thing that I myself have experienced when training with BrainHQ. I'll get like 4 stars the first 2 times and I'm like, I've earned 8 stars. I can get a 2-star performance easy the next time I replay this level. I don't think it's bad, but I don't know. What do you think, Henry?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's bad. We always want you to try your hardest, Stephanie,
Yeah.
as you know. But yeah, I think we've all been in situations where we need just 1 more star. Usually it's pretty easy to earn that last star. And then we coast a little bit until the next level starts. And that's okay. If you want to save your mental energy for the next challenging exercise in the session, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. So good question, though. Good question.
Just really funny because when I was getting together those animation sequences from the personal trainer, I had that exact sort of thought process. I was like, do I really need to overachieve right now? But reserving it for future challenging exercise is a really great way of thinking about it.
That's right. That's right. We all have a certain amount of energy we can expend.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question from Andre, and he's telling us, or she's telling us, that they have achieved more than 61,000 stars, Stephanie, and more than 13,000 levels. So first of all, congratulations. You have really been working on your brain health, and
That is incredible.
I see someone who has really worked their way through the brain training content like this. And the question they ask is, hey, should they use the personal trainer or pick some exercises? And hey, you are the kind of user where if you do use the personal trainer, it may be experiencing that issue I talked about earlier. It might just give you 1 or 2 exercises, and that might be kind of redundant. So usually what I would recommend is, as Stephanie showed a moment ago, to pick out your own exercises and look for exercises where you don't have all the gold medals, or look for exercises where you still don't have 5 stars. And that's a great way to kind of, work on the stuff that you can still push your brain a little bit further on. But congratulations, 13,000 levels. That is fantastic. I am just thrilled to see it. I'm thrilled to see it.
Absolutely incredible work.
Let's see. What else can we talk about for these questions?
Frederick has an interesting question. When you are going to train with a specific exercise, how do you know what the best level for you to train with is?
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I was just going to go ahead and navigate to that. So not personal trainer, but sort of personal trainer adjacent. If there's that specific exercise that you want to go and do that the personal trainer isn't queuing up, there are a couple of ways to navigate to it. Generally, what we recommend doing is clicking on Explore All Exercises. Let's say it's a level of target tracker that I want to go to. Now we can see sort of a grid system here where each of these boxes represents a level of target tracker. And we can see the levels that I've completed have scores in them. And then the levels that I haven't made progress in or haven't done before are just these sort of gray circles. So there are a couple of different ways that you can approach your training. So if you are the kind of person who wants to get 5 stars on every level, maybe you can come back here and see if there are any levels that you want to improve your star count on. The other thing you can do is that if you want to train with a new level, generally what we recommend doing is training with a level that's adjacent to the last level that you trained with. So for this it looks like the last level that I trained with. So I would either click that level or that level next to it. And those are going to have slightly different variations in the stimuli. So that's what the different X and Y axes are, the two different kinds of stimuli.
Yep.
So that would be my recommendation. But Henry, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's the perfect way to go about it. That's exactly right. So
Cool.
that's what we would recommend. Let's see. Wonderful. So many good questions here. Someone asked if I have only a few minutes in a session. I've only got a few minutes, and I have to imagine they're standing in line at the grocery or maybe waiting to pick a kid up from school or something. Is it best to do 10 stars in one exercise, or is it best to do fewer stars in more exercises? Well, good question. First of all, in general, if you have a very limited time, if you have only, 5 or 10 minutes, I would actually generally suggest you pick an individual exercise to work on. The personal trainer is going to work a little bit better when it thinks you can sit down for 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. So if you just got a few minutes and you want to cram in some brain training, first of all, good for you, right? It's better for your brain than, just looking at Instagram pictures or what have you. And then if you have just those few minutes, what I would suggest is picking out an individual exercise, exactly like Stephanie just showed. Pick an exercise where you think, hey, you have a silver medal and you might earn a few more stars and get to gold. Or pick out an exercise where, there's some levels you've simply never tried before and you want to give them a swing. In those few minutes, I would generally recommend, working on just one level or two levels within an exercise, because BrainHQ is about practice, and it's a little bit better to repeat things and get that practice in for your brain than it is to just sort of skip around from exercise to exercise. In the same way that the personal trainer asks you to repeat levels and brings back exercises, if you got just a few minutes, you can do that by picking out your own exercise, but still try to live up to those principles. Play a level twice and see if you get better at it the second time, or try 2 levels within the same exercise and notice how they're different. By that time, you'll probably be at the front of the line. It'll be time to buy your groceries, but you'll have done something nice for your brain along the way. So, great question.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we have quite a few questions regarding progress. If we could just touch on that real quick. A lot of people are asking about percentile. People want to know how many, what is the population that percentiles are based off of within our BrainHQ user base? Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the percentiles are based off of quite literally almost everyone who's done BrainHQ, which is, millions of people.
A lot of people.
So you're comparing yourself to sort of everyone who's ever come down BrainHQ. And hey, that involves all kinds of people, right? You can pick your age, as you know, and so you'll be compared to people who were within, 5 years on either side of that. If you tell BrainHQ you're 46 years old, it'll generally be comparing you to people between 41 and 51. Within that, there's, again, liable to be, thousands, tens of thousands, even millions of people you're being compared to. Hey, they're from all walks of life, right? You might be being compared at the one end to a professional football player who's been doing tons of BrainHQ and is very sharp. You might also be being compared to someone who just had an unfortunate accident and fell off their motorcycle and is working on recovering it. That's why we compare you to so many people, because on the average, the middle is probably the right level of comparison for you. So, wonderful question.
All right, so I'm also seeing a lot of questions about if there's a way to exclude a specific level of training from the personal trainer. So I'm seeing a lot of people specifically talking about some of the later levels of Hawkeye, where the birds are very, very hard to discern. They look very, very similar, and it's hard to see them on a complex background. Is there a way to exclude that specific level with the yellow birds, or that specific level with the seagulls, for example? So as I understand it, no. And Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't a way to exclude a specific level of an exercise within the personal trainer.
There isn't yet. I guess what I can say is that's a feature request that has come to us, certainly from time to time, and we'd like to think about a way to make that possible in the future. But right now, it's unfortunately not possible. So,
yeah,
just powering through it or skipping the exercise for a while. Both of those are fine.
Yeah. Sorry about the hoax, but excited
it's a perfectly good request, though. Perfectly good request.
Yes.
Related, I see a question here from Mike saying, if I know for sure that I'm going to fail on a specific exercise, Mike says, hey, I choose pause, and then you're going to give me a new one to try. And then, maybe I'm going to get that one right. And he asks, am I cheating? Well, first, that's a great question, Mike. And hey, the good news is you really can't cheat on BrainHQ. Scientists have worked very hard to make sure that's true. But I like your question, and I want to say a few more about it, because I think a lot of times when people are doing a BrainHQ level, they really have a mentality about it that, hey, I want to get all of these right, and if I get one wrong, people sometimes think, oh, I failed on that. That's the language that was used in this question. And I'm sure the person was typing it quickly, and I don't want to, over dramatize it. But I really think it's important, Stephanie. I don't want people to think that they fail when they get one wrong. Each exercise in BrainHQ is adaptive. As you get them right, it will get harder. And it will get hard enough that it will challenge any brain on planet Earth. Whether it's our chief technology officer who's done an awful lot of brain training, whether it's a professional sports star, whether it's a top performer in the military, it will drive those people to a very challenging level, and they will get some wrong. So I don't want anyone to think that because they get some wrong, that means that they have a bad brain or they didn't do well today or anything along those kinds of lines. And in fact, if you get one wrong, as you probably know, BrainHQ will actually get a little bit easier so you can get the next one right. So, if you hit one and you feel like I'm definitely going to get this wrong, here's what I do, Stephanie. I just guess. I do my best. And if I get it wrong, no worries. BrainHQ is going to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to adapt to how I'm doing that day. And hey, maybe I'm having a not such a great day, right? Maybe I didn't sleep well the night before, maybe I haven't had a cup of coffee yet. That's fine. I'm going to get a few more wrong, and BrainHQ is going to make it easier. And then I'm going to start getting them right again. So you're not cheating if you pause it and start the next one again. But I wouldn't want anyone to think that BrainHQ is test. You're not failing or passing. BrainHQ is practice. And all of us, when we practice the best, we do some things we're really good at. We do some things that are a stretch for us. And that's in fact what makes our brain better. So great question, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Henry said, we're going to have good training days, bad training days. And BrainHQ is not a test or an assessment. It's designed to challenge you to a point where you're getting roughly 20% of the questions wrong in a given exercise or in a given level. So like if you're getting some questions wrong, but most of them right, you're actually probably training at a level that's pretty good for you. So if you get the occasional trial wrong within a level, that is A-okay, and that's nothing to be worried about. One other question that we sometimes get is, how do I slow down an exercise? And this is kind of what Henry was alluding to. If an exercise is seeing that you're getting question after question after question wrong, it will slow down and get easier for you. So you're going to see that most frequently in our timed exercises, like divided attention, for example, or continuous performance task, or CPT exercises is what we call them. Sometimes they'll get so fast and you get one wrong and then you get flustered, and then you start to get a trail of them wrong. That is okay. Just jump back in when it's at a speed that's good for you and your brain, and work your way back up again.
Wonderful.
All right. So I think the last two questions that I want to answer here, because I happen to have a handy slide for it, are what are your email address and where can I find a recording of this webinar? So I'll go ahead and put up our final title slide here. Our support email address is support@brainhq.com. Our support site is support.brainhq.com. That's a support site that's going to have answers to hundreds of common questions regarding BrainHQ, and it includes a whole section dedicated to answering questions about the personal trainer. And youtube.com/BrainHQ is where all of our office hour webinars and BrainHQ Academy webinars are uploaded. You can find the playlist there. If you go to youtube.com/BrainHQ and click subscribe, you can also receive an email notification as soon as those videos get posted. So you'll be the first to watch that replay when they come in. So I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the webinar today. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to answer everybody's questions. There were so many more. But do email us, do go to that support site. Like I just said, we are more than happy to, take a look at your account, see what the personal trainer is up to, tweak it if needed. Henry, do you have any final parting words?
Well, I'm delighted that everyone joined us today. I'm glad we had such great questions and such a robust discussion. As Stephanie said, we answered a lot of questions. There are some questions we just didn't quite have time to. So please send your question on to support@brainhq.com, and we would love to follow up with you. And with that, happy brain training. I'm always happy to see so many people taking advantage of BrainHQ, putting their brains to work, and making sure all this science gets out and helps people. So thank you so much.
All right. Happy brain training, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And now you'll know how to use the personal trainer next time you log into BrainHQ.